of the silver bar. And what happened was Reuven was holding a silver bar. Shimon claimed it was his and grabbed it. A third party, only one witness, saw the grabbing, but didn't know the background. So we paskin that the one witness is meaningless, but since the guy admitted that he took it, but that it was his to take, he was unable to make a shvua because it's not amigo, because he was unable to make a shvua and he was required to make a shvua. So they gave the silver bar back to the allegedly inappropriate person. Okay, so Rav Abba, we're on the fourth line. Rav Amar Rav Abba, Have mechuyev shavua she'enu yachol shava. He has to swear and he can't because of his admission. V'chol hamechuyev shvua she'enu yachol shava mishalem. And the rule is, if the only way you can get out of not paying is by making an oath, and if you're disqualified from making an oath, you still have to pay. So now the Gemara wants to say that this case was similar to the other case where we had two claimants to a farm and one had a witness. And we want to say, okay, so it's a similar case, right? Amr lahu Abaye midami. Is it really comparable? Hasam sahada la urua re kaasi. Over there, the one witness was testifying against the claimant, and the court and ki asi acharina bahadai, because if a second witness had been there to agree with him, mafkinan le mine, the court would have given the ingot back to the holder that they saw take it from. But in the farm case, l'sayuye ko ase, there the witness is backing up the guy holding it. So you can't say they're analogous, okay? Kiyasa la'achrina mukme makminan le b'yadei. They'd have taken, allowed the landowner to retain it. So Ella e dam yahad Rebbe Abba. So if there is a case similar to Rav Abba's case, lachad sada de tarte shnei. So we had a case where a man claimed he has a chazaka, and he says, I have witnesses. But the witnesses can only testify that he had it for 2 years. So they could not testify.
He only has one witness.
And right, it has to be one witness because we want to make it comparable to the ingot case.
Right.
So lepere, and they're not arguing about ownership of the land. The occupier acknowledges that the other guy owns the land, but the occupier is claiming that I was hired as a sharecropper and that I am simply retaining my portion of the produce and so that would be the comparable case. All right, new case. Now, these are all cases of how do you deal with doubts, right? Hahu arba, there was a boat. Tahavu minsu Allah betray. And two guys were arguing it's their boat. Hi Omer Didihi, it's my boat. Vahai Omer Didihi, and the other one says it's my boat. So Asachad Minaihu Lebedina, one of these two guys sues the other in court. The Omar, and he says to the court, tif suha. The court should take possession of the boat. In other words, don't give it to either of us. The court should hold on to the boat. Ademaisina sahade didihi. And I will find witnesses. Now, give me time to find witnesses to prove it's my boat. So we have a couple of questions. Number one, should the court actually seize the boat? Tafsinan or lo tafsinan? Should the boat be seized by the Bezdin or not? Rav Huna Omer tafsinan, we should seize the boat. Rav Yehuda Omer lo tafsinan, we should not seize the boat. So they decided to seize the boat. Azil, the man who who asked for the seizure and who said, I will find witnesses, lo ashkach sahade. He was unable, they gave him 30 days, he was unable to produce witnesses. So Amar lahu, so he said to the court, afkuha, release the boat. Take your saz, and v'chol de'alim gavar, and I'll beat up the other guy, or he'll beat me up. One of them, in other words, we will fight it out, either verbally or physically. It doesn't say, and the winner of the fight will keep the boat. So now we have more questions. Mafkinen or lo mafkinen? Should the boat be released after the court claimed it? We took it over when there is no person to give it to. Should they just essentially make it hefker? Rav Yehuda Omer lo mafkinen. Rav Yehuda says you can't do that. You can't just release the boat and let them fight it out. And Rav Papa Omer mafkinen. We should release the boat and let them fight it out. V'hilchisa lo mafsinan. We do not release the boat. V'hecha de sofes. Once the court got involved and seizes property, lo mafkinan, they do not release the property unless they can determine to whom to give it. Okay, so now we introduce the notion of where it's impossible for the Bezdin to make a determination. I say it's mine, Bob says it's his, neither of us has any proof, and neither of us has a chazaka. So there's no way the court can determine, except Bob's handsomer than I am, or I have a longer beard than he has. So it is impossible for them to make a halachic judgment. So what are you allowed? Is the court allowed to say, fight it out? All right, that's the new question. Okay, so v'hilchas alo tafsina, we do not keep it. Now, ze omer shel avosai. One guy says, I inherited this farm. V'ze omer shel avosai, and the other guy says, no, I inherited that farm. And again, neither of them has witnesses, and there are no people in the neighborhood who know what the facts are, because they would be witnesses. Reb Nachman called the Elim Gavar. Let them fight it out, and let the winner take the boat. So so why is this case different than a new case we're going to introduce? Mishnei shtaros hayotzin biyom echad. A man is dying. He decides to give his property away. Now, nobody is a witness nobody is at the deathbed but Harry and Sid. And they both show up in Bezdin with a signed transmittal note that this is a gift signed by the now dead guy on the same date. So both documents, one document says I give it to Harry, signed the dead man, and the other note says I give it to Sid, signed by, and both have the same date. So it's impossible for the Bezdin to make a determination. Turn the page. We're going to do the whole next stop and will be one ahead. Okay? The Rav Omer Yechalaiku. According to Rav, since we can't determine it, divide the parcel of land into two and give half to each guy. Shmuel Aimer should have Dayane. Literally, it's a toss up. The judges should make a decision on emotional or gut reaction kind of determination. And so why is that different than the boat? And it didn't say find it out. So regarding the two deeds, Leka Lamekam Ale de Milsa, it is impossible to ever determine it based on facts. The facts will never change. I have a note saying it's mine. It's not forged. It's an honest note with the guy's honest signature. And Bob has a note that it's his and it's not forged. They both have the same date. There is no way ever that that'll become true unless Hashem gives us a baskol and you don't even listen to a baskol. In the case of Rav Nachman, Hacha Ika Lamekum Ale de Milsa. Eventually, they could, if the court advertises and sends out messengers, and we're talking about ownership of land. Eventually, you'll find some old man somewhere who knows which guy's grandfather owned it. So it is possible to eventually make a determination. So in that case, the court, in the first case where never can there be a determination, the court uses its best judgment. Bob looks more honest than I am. They give it to him. But in the other case, the court retains it until a decision is made because one can be made. That's the difference. And what about the next case? Okay, which is another impossible to answer case. Schwartz has a cow, Abramowitz has a donkey. Each one needs the other thing, so they swap them. Oh, v'chein hamoicher shivchaso v'yolda. Oh, v'yolda. And the cow is pregnant, and it gives birth. But we do not know whether the cow gave birth before the guy made a mashicha on the donkey or after. If it was before, the calf remains in the possession of the initial cow owner. If it's after the other guy acquires the donkey, then the baby belongs to the new owner along with the cow. Similarly, if I buy a slave girl and she's in the slave quarters and she's 9 months pregnant and she gives birth to a baby the day of the transaction, do we know if she gave birth before I got the deed or after I got the deed? We don't. And there's no way to determine it because cows can't talk and slaves are puzzled from Aedis. So even though there are 100 slaves in the barn when she gives birth and they know when it was, they can't testify. So we'll never know the facts. She gave birth before I sold it to you, so I own the baby. After I bought her, she gave birth. Yechalku, they divided. Remember, Sumcha said, in that kind of a case, they sell the calf and they split the money, or one pays the other half of the value, and that way they split the money. So here's the difference. Hasam, turn the page. Lahai le de Rava de Mamoina. This is simply a monetary case, and each guy, the Lahai is le de Rada the mamona. Each guy has a legitimate claim to the money, the baby of the person or the baby of the ox. And the Bezdin has no way of ever determining what the underlying facts are, and therefore they split it. Hacha, but coming back to Reb Nachman's case, I demar lo demar. If eventually witnesses show up that Reuven inherited it, then it's clearly not and never was Shimon's. And if the witnesses come along, the Idamar, if they come along and say it was Shimon's, Lo Damar, it's not the other guys. So therefore, they have no choice. And according to Rav Nachman, they say there's no way we can handle this. Fight it out. That was how Rav Nachman ruled. Okay.
What does that fight it out?
What?
What does fight it out
mean? Work it out between the two of you. It could literally come to fisticuffs, or it could be, look, give me $500 and I'll withdraw my claim.
Okay.
But the point is that since it's impossible for the Bezdin to rule, the Bezdin says we don't have jurisdiction.
Okay.
Okay? And you can interpret, fight it out. I mean, the Meforshim, some say literally whoever's stronger can claim it. And others say, no, they have to come to a mutual agreement. All right, I'm getting beaten up. You've come to a mutual agreement. You say, Rotzah, honey.
I just have a feeling that, like now with civil court, usually it's a preponderance of the evidence. Who has the?
Yeah, but here there's no preponderance of the evidence. Here it's exactly the same argument, and there's no proof one way or the other. That's why one Tana says the court should make a decision based on not preponderance of the evidence, but external circumstances. We know Bob never lies. We know Burr is a liar. Or we know Bob is rich or Burr is poor, but you're not supposed to do that. In other words, one side said, look, the court has to come to a conclusion, even if they can't base it on the evidence. And the other side says, no, the court isn't allowed to toss a coin. The actual text of the Gemara says the court tosses a coin. It's a coin toss, a flip. All right. So now, what's the background of this argument? Amrei Nehardoi, the rabbis in Nehardoi say, if a guy shows up from out in the wilderness somewhere, an unknown party shows up, and grabs a piece of property. Now, this is the boat, okay, or the argued over farm. So while the two guys are trying to work it out, a third party comes and grabs it. Now, remember, we suggested that if the court gives it back the boat, it's hefker. They can't give it to either guy, so it's taka hefker. Since it's in a sense hefker, the court can't take it away from the grabber. Okay? So that's what they say in Nahardoi. The Tani Rebbe Chia, because Rebbe Chia has a brisa, Gazlan shall rob him, lav shemei Gazlan. If somebody takes something that is essentially ownerless, it's public, anybody can take it, he's called a thief. But he's not called a thief, I'm sorry, meaning the court can't make him give it back. Rav Ashi Omer li'aylam shmei Gazlan. Just a minute. Reuven and Shimon were fighting over the boat. Harry can't come along and grab the boat. It's not really hefker. It's just that we can't determine who is the actual owner. Oh my, lo shmei Gazlan. So what does it mean when Rav Chia says he's not a thief? What it means is shelo nitan laheshvan, leshavan. I'm sorry, that the court isn't authorized to decide. Therefore, possession is 9/10 of the law. And it doesn't mean he had a right to do that. It just means it's a peculiar enough case that the court can't take it back from him, because then they're back where they started from. Okay. Now we're going weiter in the Mishnah. We're back to the Mishnah. Says Kasan Shalosh Shana Miyom Liyai. We learned in the Mishnah that you have to, that a chazaka, and there were different ways of interpreting it, but what we concluded was a chazaka means continual occupation and utilization for 3 years. Okay, me'es la'es. So if you got it on the 3rd of Nisan, the chazaka is up at the end of the 2nd. In other words, the 3rd of the Nisan, 3 years later. Amar Rav Abba, I dolele, I hugufe, sana de pere. What if during the time they're arguing, Reuven says it's mine, Shimon says it's mine, and during the 3rd year, say, just when he first goes to court, people see Shimon filling up, picking apples, putting them in a basket, and handing them to the other guy. Is that evidence that he acknowledges the other guy owns it? Because the owner is the one that gets the fruit. Okay? So, la'alter have chazaka. So if you say that he's acknowledging that the other guy owns it, then the guy has an instant chazaka. You don't have to worry about 3 years. The other man made an action acknowledging that the first man owns it. So Omer Rav Zvid im ta'on v'omer, but the guy who hands him the basket could have not meant that you own it. He could have said, Lepeiros haradativ, I rented this land to you, or I hired you as a sharecropper, and I'm helping you harvest the apples, and this basket is part of your cut. So he's not acknowledging that the other guy's the owner. He's simply acknowledging that the other guy's entitled to a basket of apples. All right? The Neman, the challenger, the basket hander-overer, is believed. Tahani mili b'tok shalosh, but that applies if the basket handover is during the 3 years of the potential chazaka. Aval la'achar shalosh, but if he never challenged, and it's now the 4th year and he hands over the basket, then that's an acknowledgement that it's the other guy's. So Rav Ashi Rav Kahana, Rav Ashi does not happy with that. If he handed it over, my Avid, exactly what should he have done to protect himself against the other guy saying, see, he acknowledged that I got it, that it's mine. So Amar Rav Kahana, it's a theoretical question. Amar Rav Kahana, he should have made a protest. In other words, he should have put up a sign, this is mine, he's a sharecropper. Or he should have gone to Bezdin and filed a claim. I rented it to him for 3 years. I hired him for 3 years, but it's not a chazaka. His inaction is proof that the other guy should own it. That's the whole basis of chazaka to begin with. The ilo temahachi, if we don't make that argument that a protest is enough to violate and break a chazaka, Hane mashkanta de surah. This is a complicated thing. There are documents, when you draw in surah, there was common to have absentee landlords. And they would draw up documents with sharecroppers saying, it's my land, it retains my land, but you can have 80% of the produce, or whatever the number they agreed. Okay, Dixiv Bahu, it's written in them, B'mishalem shnia elaine, at the end of the number of years in this contract, Tikbuk Ara Do Below Kesef, I get the money back without any other payment. It could also be a loan document. I lend Marty $100,000. I work his farm for 4 years and make approximately 25 grand a year in produce. At the end of the term, he gets his money back, and he gets his land back, and there's no money involved. The Kavish le v'shtar mashkachta gabe, and if at the end of the 3 years or the whatever number of years, the guy who's the holder, I can't find the document, or he hides the document, or whatever, he conceals the document, and the other guy says, I bought it from you 3 years ago, okay? Based on the statement of when I give you the basket, I'm allowed to set the terms by making a smacha that this is only a payment. Why can't I make a claim? Oh, I ripped up the document, and then I make a claim. I don't have a deed, but I don't need one. It's been 4 years. I bought it from you, and we would theoretically believe you. Maskane Rabbanan made pseida. So would the rabbis allow a business transaction where there's so little supervision that it's rife for fraud? They wouldn't do that. And therefore, they wouldn't allow the possessor to keep the land with this Syrian contract. Ella, Rav Kahana says, a boile lamachuye. The buyer, the borrower, in other words, the man who got the money and turned over his land, should have made a statement in Bezdin before the 3 years was up. So this case is a raya to the basket case, that you have to go to court and file a protest. Here also, a boy Leila Mahuye, he should have filed a protest. All right, now here comes an interesting case. There are non-Jews who live in Israel, as well as Jews. So Omar Rav Yehuda Omar Rav, Yisrael habo me chamas oived gechavi. A Jew is occupying land because he bought it from a non-Jew. And now they're in court with a dispute over whether he really bought it or not. Harehu ka'oved kachavit. The court treats the Jew and the non-Jew equitably. It doesn't automatically favor the Jew because he's a Jew. Okay? On the other hand, my Ovid Kachavim ein lo chazaka ela b'shtar. Just as the non-Jew can't establish a chazaka because he can't testify that I've been here for 3 years. He only can claim ownership with documentation. Okay? Af Yisrael haba machmas Ovid Kachavim ein lo chazaka ela b'shtar. So in order to treat them equitably, a Jew can't squat on a goy's land and claim a chazaka. The Jew equally has to present documentation. And so that's the basic rule. There will be exceptions. Tune in tomorrow and start learning exceptions. Ad kan. And now we are one dot ahead. So when it comes to Tisha B'Av, we'll automatically clean up, come back to schedule. What happened to you?
Air conditioning problem. Oh my God.
At home? What's the matter?
It's not working right.
Oh,
Call
so
them up and
your
they-
wife can't
they
call?
don't know who I am. You need them.
Oh, I hear. Oh, you're not the guy. Burr owns that apartment. That's what we were learning.
Yeah, I can't find you. You have to find it out.
Wait, when you think they can send somebody?
Rav Northside,
Yeah.
the case where the court takes over the boat
Right,
seizes the boat and keeps it.
right.
Suppose they took over something that requires upkeep.
The court would upkeep and bill the ultimate recipient. Just like if you find
But there's no one to bill.
one of them eventually the boat will, the expenses will equal the value of the boat. So
And they'll
they
sell
sell the boat and keep the money.
All right.
Well, just like, but listen, if you find a bag of seeds, okay, and it's a Jewish owner, but you can't find the owner, you are obligated to buy a piece of land, plant the seeds, harvest the seeds, sell the seeds, etc., the grain, etc., etc. And by the time you find the guy, he's a millionaire, but you can deduct all your expenses over the.
I mean, you can't just sell the seeds and deduct.
No, you have to plant the seeds. There is an argument that you have to sell the seeds, but the halacha is you have to protect his interest, which means make money from his investment for him.
Yashikoa.
In other words, it's a question of do you prevent a loss or do you protect his investment and help him make his profit?
No, I can put a little difficult, but I can make.
What's the matter? Are you stuck? That's your own fault for being so big, Marty.
My mother in the pond, we were,
Your parents were both very big?
my father was 5, in his day, he was considered small, 5'11".
Uh-huh. Well, because your son looks like you watered him but didn't fertilize. He's so thin.
They're both taller than me, and my grandson, his son is like 6'9".
Wow.
That's a lot of fertile. Everybody, every other store in black bread. Real. I didn't get it. This part of that school.
How old is your son?
Have a good
One's 52,
The one that was here?
he's 48.
He looks very youthful. You know, I'd have guessed he's 40 tops. All right, in a few years, he could take your apartment away from you.
But my oldest, like I said, he's turning 53.
Uh-huh. All right, so he'll get it first.
I can attest because I was at his bar mitzvah.
You were? Real? Oh, you were both from Staten Island?
You were both of them. Oh,
They're both bar mitzvah.
Was it that, did he give you a good kiddush?
Only the best. Oh, the Angles.
Oh.
The Angle boys, Shmuel David and. What's Yechiel's middle name? What's Yechiel's middle name? Zev? Yechiel Zev. Oh.
All right.
That's something I should know.
What?
I should know that.
I get for you.
No, but I remember from the Alta Hand. Yeah, I remember Seth Keller's English. Seth Keller. That's right. Now I remember. Rosemore.
Yeah, my in-laws had, my mother-in-law had to get some,
Okay.
wanted to make the Israel Shalom. I said, I had an uncle Shmuel. Had to stick it out with Shmuel. Shmuel was my grandfather.
Marty, thank you very much for taking care of the first. Thank you, Rabbi Gar, for your
More than welcome.
thrilling.
I don't know what that tumult was this morning. It's a sloppy safer. But that kuf looked just like all the others.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't the
That's
cook,
good.
it's the verb.
As long as he's consistent. As long as he's
No, hopefully it was a kuf, because if it was a vav, then we're all in big
It
trouble.
was a horse.
No, the kuf has a vav in it. So
That's how they make, a lot of these letters, like what, you know what a lamed is?
Vomit?
That's
like a
help with
lamed,
a
has
vav
3
on
humps
top.
on it?
Help with a vav on top.
Stop with the wrong.
That's how they, you know, that's how they do it.
Yeah, that is. Okay, thank you very much. Awesome. Have a good day, John.
Is the phone still here? Robert.
Bob, phone.
I
Can't
just-
call you to
I
tell
just
you.
wanted to see if you were paying attention.
Yeah. Well, you excuse yesterday.
You keep telling people, shut your phone off, shut your phone
I
off.
see, I see you're paying attention, very good.
When does Heshy get